Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
What I love in this platform, honorable
Honorable members, there will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Honorable members, you may be seated. I know you are seated where you are, but for completeness, you may be seated. Thank you very much. The secretary will read the order, the first order to the 6 orders or orders together simultaneously. Honorable members, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Chairperson.
Yes,
And the
you are,
secretary,
Chairperson.
what happened to the secretary? Because she or he is supposed to read the first order to the 6th order together. Front table, Mr. Paran and your team. Honorable members, just allow me 1 second to check what is happening.
I think they're sleeping on the job, Chairperson.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'll attend to it.
Consideration of request for approval by Parliament of international treaty.
Okay, you may proceed.
Of international treaty on plant genetic resources for food and agriculture in terms of section 2312 of the Constitution 1996. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Next time, don't disappear. Honorable members, I now recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance. Over to you, sir. The Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, are you here?
Honorable Chairperson.
Chairperson.
Honorable Singh, I can hear, it seems like your voice.
Yes, I'm sorry. Why do we need the minister for this or the chairperson? It's a report, is it not?
No, the order indicates minister. But I know that somebody needs to, from the front table, then to correct that. But the other paper reflects as minister.
The International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources is to be presented by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee.
No, Honorable Nkosi Mandela, allow me to assist the meeting.
Okay.
Honorable Telezi. Honorable members, I think there's something here. I will request your indulgence on this one and apology once more. Allow me to move if the I think allow me just a few minutes just to see what is happening here and do some calls. I think Friday it's hectic for all of us. Our apology on this one. Just bear with us.
I think you have the wrong order paper, Chairperson.
I'm led to believe that this session is supposed to start with the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. So,
the governing party is tired.
No. Honorable members, it's not the case. Just allow me, please. I really make an appeal to you. Okay, honorable members, having sorted ourselves here, and once more, I would like to convey the sincere apology on this one. The first order of the day, our request is for consideration of request for approval of International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, known as ITPGRFA, report of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land and Rural Development. I now recognize the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable members, good morning. Molweni, Dumelang. The International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture will advance our objectives of addressing one of the greatest problems facing humanity today. Global food insecurity is a reality that we cannot ignore. Up to 783 million people faced hunger in 2022, and projections show that in 2030, over 600 million people will still struggle to feed their families. The results of a Stats SA survey indicate that out of almost 17.9 million households in South Africa in 2021, almost 80%, that is 14.2 million, reported that they had adequate access to food, while 15%, being 2.6 million, and 6%, being 1.1 million, stated that they have inadequate and severe inadequate access to food, respectively. The international treaty before us addresses food security by promoting the protection of genetic resources. We derive our plant genetic resources, such as seeds, from two primary sources: traditional farmers' seeds and commercial commodity seeds. The latter seed systems are dominated by 4 agrochemical companies, the Big Four. They control 60% of global seeds market and 75% of the pesticides market, leading to a stranglehold on seed variety, distribution, and price. The new FAO report found that global agricultural sources, including seed production, due to natural disasters, also impact food security and amounted to $3.8 trillion from 1991 to 2021, equivalent to annual losses of $123 billion, or about 5% of global agricultural GDP. the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture was tabled in Parliament in terms of Section 231, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act number 108 of 1996, on the 24th of February 2023, and was referred to the Portfolio Committee for consideration. The objectives of the treaty was first adopted by FAO of the United Nations in November 2001. These objectives will be attained by closely linking the treaty through the FAO to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, to which South Africa is already a signatory. Having considered and deliberated on the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, the Portfolio Committee recommends that Parliament approves the accession to the said international treaty. I thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, honorable member. I now recognize Honorable NP Masipa. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Honorable Masipa, are you there, sir?
Apologies, House Chairperson. I'm just trying to open my video.
Okay.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Section 231 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa states that an international agreement is only binding on the Republic after the resolution in both the National Assembly and NCOP approving it. The International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture was adopted by Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, conference in November 2001, more than 20 years ago. After adoption, however, South Africa failed to sign the treaty, even though it remained open for new signatory countries by FAO members and non-FAO members who are members of the United Nations at FAO from November 3, 2001 to November 4, 2002. South Africa had the option to ratify, accept and approve the treaty as a member of FAO without going through the current process that we are going through, but it failed to do so. The Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development notified the Portfolio Committee to consider the treaty and provide recommendation to National Assembly to approve it. The Democratic Alliance supports this treaty. The objective of the treaty includes the conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture security. In addition, it entails the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the use of plant genetic resources in harmony with the Convention on Biological Diversity for Sustainable Agriculture and Food Security. ARC-VOP currently maintains 10 gene banks consisting of germplasm collections of selected indigenous vegetables, commercial vegetables, indigenous flower bulbs, medicinal plants, and cactus pear, which this treaty aims to protect through the enhanced protection of other plant materials not included. However, it will be amiss of the DA not to highlight areas that we suspect that the sleeping ANC on duty is going to drop the ball on. As a contracting party, South Africa must attend to key areas such as Clause 5.2, which expect the contracting parties to take appropriate steps to minimize or eliminate threats to plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. Clause 6.1 requires the contracting parties to develop and maintain appropriate policies and legal measures that promote the sustainable use of plant genetics resources for food and agriculture. Additionally, Clause 6.2b requires that the sustainable use of plant genetics for food and agriculture should include measures such as strengthening research to enhance and conserve biological diversity. We welcome Clause 13.3, which states that the contracting parties agree that benefits arising from the use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture that are shared under the multilateral system should flow primarily, directly and indirectly to farmers in all countries, especially in developing countries and countries with economies in transition. As chairperson, in conclusion, the Democratic Alliance has concerns about how the sleeping ANC government treats exporting farmers. The failures at the ports are causing farmers to lose millions of rands as their fruits arrive late at their export destinations. It is unreasonable of this corrupt ANC government to expect farmers to comply with strict cooling requirements when the port infrastructure is failing. While we welcome this treaty, the DA remains extremely concerned about the treatment of farmers, including those that are affected by avian influenza, who has no vaccines to protect their birds due to the failure of the ANC government. As the DA, we ask ANC government to give farmers vaccines, or else they must give over the phytosanitary measures to the competent provincial DA government to do a better job. The DA calls on the government to ensure that appropriate legislation is in place to ensure that both farmers and the state comply with FAO requirements to ensure maximum protection of South African plant genetic banks. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable MC Wisa. Over to you,
Thank you.
Honourable.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would request to keep my video off. We've just been hit by load shedding where we are. House
Permission
Chairperson, may I
granted.
first and foremost, thank you, Chair. House Chairperson, may I first and foremost salute the CIC and the entire leadership of the EFF, the Economic Emancipatory Movement, and the government in waiting. The International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture aims to promote the conservation and sustainable use of all plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of their use, in harmony with the Convention on Biological Diversity for Sustainable Agriculture and Food Security. In its presentation on the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development gave reasons for its ratification. It supports government priorities on sustainable management and use of natural and biological resources and rural development. It recognizes contributions of local and indigenous communities and farmers to conservation and development of plant genetic resources. South Africa will ensure the protection of traditional knowledge. Farmers will participate equitably in benefit sharing and decision making on plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. It is prudent for South Africa to be part of the global negotiations on the multilateral system of resources for food and agriculture to safeguard its interests as well as access and benefit sharing for their utilization. As the EFF, we are not opposed to SA's participation in multilateral forums and membership of treaties like the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, whose mission is to exploit and harness natural and genetic resources in order to enhance food production, food security, and meet the consumption needs of the people on equitable basis. House Chairperson, these forums must be transformed in order to move away from their Eurocentric and Afrophobic views, or even worse, their pursuit of imperialist and neo-colonial agenda towards Africa and other developing countries of South, where Africa and other developing countries are treated as footstool, the playing and dumping ground of inferior and substandard agricultural products, and use such countries as guinea pigs for genetical trials and experiments. We are, however, opposed to the proliferation of GMOs, which are produced by the rich but consumed by the poor, with all the negative consequences on the health and the poor people of the world in the so-called third world countries. The EFF supports this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Singh. I guess you are in for Honourable Nkosi Cebekulu. Over to you, sir.
Incorrect, Chairperson. Correct. I was asking incorrect. Correct. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Yes, I'm in for Honourable Cebekulu. But let me start off by just agreeing with the Honourable Member from the EFF about the whole issue of GMOs and the fact that as the South African government and Department of Agriculture, we are not doing enough to look at the impact of GMOs on our health, and also the impact of the continued use of pesticides. Because, you know, it is often said that the illnesses that we suffer from comes mainly from the food that we eat and the air that we breathe. So I just want to emphasize to the department that they've got to do more with regard to the continued use of GMOs and pesticides. Having said that, Honorable Chairperson, agriculture is the bulwark against hunger and poverty for more than 60 million people in this country. It provides sustainable security that none, rich or poor,
Honorable Singh, I suggest that you switch off your video. I guess we are losing you, Honorable Member.
they live without.
Honorable Singh.
Therefore, it is of utmost importance that we ensure the adoption and implementation of effective legislation. You don't want to comment.
Yes, just switch off your video, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, please.
I have done that, Chair. And
Thank
unfortunately, this bad connectivity comes from Parliament and not from my own, gadget. But Parliament itself needs to do something. It is of utmost importance that we ensure the adoption and implementation of effective legislation, policies, and treaties that will safeguard the conservation and viable use of resources for food. Statistics released recently worryingly revealed that 1 in 5 South African households are food insecure, with those in the rural areas most affected. As with any other similar commodity in the country, food access depends on socioeconomic status. This means that our people who are unemployed and those receiving a low monthly income and those who are destitute are the most severely affected by a lack of food security.
Honorable Singh, we have lost you. I'm not too sure whether still the blame gets portioned to Parliament.
Honorable Chair, 1 in 5 may seem like a minuscule figure, but I would like to remind all of us to keep in mind that people's lives, people that all of us in this House have a moral and constitutional duty towards. As I said again, we are concerned.
Secretary to Parliament, I'm not too sure what is happening with Honorable Singh.
It's not.
Sorry, Chair. Chairperson, I'm back, but I'm using Parliament Wi-Fi because I'm in my office and it's just hopeless.
Oh, it's the Wi-Fi.
Yes. Yeah, I'll have to connect with my router, I think. But just to say, we support the adoption of the treaty, but we are concerned about the increasing use of GMOs, the impact on the health of people, and pesticides that are being continually used. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable T. Brett. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture was adopted by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations Conference at its 31st session in November of 2001. The objectives of the treaty have been mentioned before and have to do with the conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. Consultation on this treaty only started in October of 2018 and included inputs from relevant government departments, civil society organizations, South African National Seed Organization, Agricultural Research Council, private individuals, and individual seed companies. The majority of stakeholders acknowledged that the treaty was a very important instrument as it recognizes farmers' practices and the role played by farmers in conservation of plant genetic resources and agriculture. And most importantly, the treaty recognizes farmers' rights, including the rights of farmers to save, use, and exchange and sell farm-saved seeds. In a country as diverse as South Africa, with a range of different farming units from commercial to small-scale farmers, and with the intricate knowledge of land and land use, this is a very important point. As the department so aptly puts it in their presentation, the conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture is critical to safeguard crop production and meet environmental challenges and population growth. South Africa is not an island unto itself. Food security is a challenge faced worldwide. A global plan of action for the conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources is necessary. This treaty ought not to have any financial implication on the country, as the treaty is funded through a funding strategy. It would also have no further burden in terms of human resources, seeing as South Africa already has established a gene bank with a budget and staff allocation. A treaty such as this will be valuable for our National Gene Bank to ensure that their work is continued and that there will be a buy-in from provincial departments of agriculture in the collecting and protecting of our genetic plant resources for food and agriculture. All in all, South Africa can largely benefit from agreeing to such a treaty. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable UTM. I now recognize Honourable ATM. Honourable Good. Honourable NFP. AIC. COPE. PAC. It must be noted that after the Honourable S.M. Dlamini, I would not take any other speaker that will come in. I now recognize Honourable S.M. Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning. May I indicate that my system also is a bit problematic. I cannot project on the video, but on the matter concerned, the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture was put forward in Parliament in terms of Section 231 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act number 108 of 1996, on 24th February 2023. And was referred to the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development on 28th February 2023. The first objective of the treaty is to enable on the conservation and sustainability of plant genetic for food. And the second objective is a commitment to promoting unbiased, impartial, proper sharing of benefits that become out of the process in harmony with the Convention on Biology Diversity for sustainable agriculture and food security. The ANC-led government has made a commitment to support the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. On the 17th of October 2023, the Portfolio Committee received an orientation on the treaty from the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, with already contemplated and pondered on the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. The Portfolio Committee, based on these deliberations it had on the 17th and 20th of October 2023, respectively, it advocates and recommends that Parliament approves the accession to the said international treaty. It is important to remind Parliament that South Africa is a member of the Food Agriculture Organization, which allows us, as stated in the Constitution of the FAO, to accede to the treaty through adherence to the provisions of accession. As government, we are fully committed to adhering to the Constitution of South Africa. As a result, we engaged on a consultation process where the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development organized a stakeholder workshop where inputs from civil society groups, Agricultural Research Council, South African National Seed Organization, private individuals, companies, and relevant government departments were received. As the ANC-led government, we are committed to be the force to be reckoned in the global market, and that is why we are in line with the best practices and international standards when it comes to food and security and development of our farmers. The majority of stakeholders in South Africa did acknowledge that it is of utmost importance that as a country we accede to the treaty because it shows evidence of recognizing farmers' practices and the role which is played by farmers towards conservation of plant genetic resource and agriculture, and puts emphasis on the farmers' rights and how they also use, exchange, and sell farm-safe food. The official public comments process was opened where public comments on the occasion treaty were published on the government gazette number 43,900, and the department has made sure through the Office of the State Law Advisor and Department of International Relations.
Thank you, Sibal Kolu. Your time has expired.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, that concludes the debate on the first order. Now we shall proceed to the second order, which is consideration of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition on study visit to the Republic of Korea. I now recognize Honorable J. Hermas. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I present this report of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition to the House for consideration. This Portfolio Committee undertook a study visit to South Korea to engage them on the industrial development policies and the use and management of SEZ to support industrial development. The committee engaged key government departments and industry stakeholders in this regard, and it visited a few of the SEZs and private companies. Critical elements of the South Korean FEZs were suitable locations near port and or airport, the quality of infrastructure and infrastructure development, the coordination and support amongst the various levels of government, flexible labor laws, incentive tax breaks and foreign exchange exemptions for domestic and international investments, and the establishment of communities and facilities for employees and owners of companies. The committee also noted the strong public-private partnership approach in South Korea in terms of the development and operation of public infrastructure. Therefore, the committee represents that the House requests that the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition should consider engaging with the relevant ministries to consider the development of a government-led vocational training strategy to ensure the supply of sector-specific skills that would promote and enhance its current industrialization drive, engaging institutions of higher learning, both locally and internationally, in conjunction with the relevant ministries to encourage the establishment of satellite campuses and or programs within SEZs to support sector-specific skills development for each SEZ, promoting public-private partnership in the ownership and or management of SEZs and its enabling infrastructure such as water, energy, and waste management, establishing good governance structures within SEZ to prevent maladministration and corrupt activities, establishing an intergovernmental coordinating body, including provincial and local representatives, reporting to him or her to monitor progress in the development of SEZs and to unblock challenges as they may arise. I put this report for consideration. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, ma'am. I now recognize Honorable D. Beckman. Over to you, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much. I'll be speaking on behalf of Honorable McPherson. Chairperson, the Portfolio Committee study visit to South Korea in April this year was both enlightening and inspiring. It gave us an opportunity to benchmark South Africa against another country that shares a not so dissimilar history. However, both countries' approach these adversaries could not be more different. On the one hand, both countries share a common history of colonialism, repression, and an unequal access to resources by the population. For most of its existence, South Korea has been occupied by the Japanese, who exerted brutal oppression on them, as well as exporting much of their resources to mainland Japan. South Korea, for all intents and purposes, was a poor country with very little going for it. However, after it gained independence, after the Korean War, where North and South were divided, it sought not to shun the Japanese, but rather learn from them and work with them to build industrial capacity. Of immense interest was the offer of teachers and education that the Japanese made to South Korea as means to upskill the nation as a precursor to industrialization. While their neighbors in the North embraced communism and repression on their citizens, which today sees the North as being one of the most least developed countries, and which still suffers famines today. The South is a shining become of a great beacon of a growth, industrializing with unrivaled access to education and healthcare, because they did exactly the opposite of their neighbors in the North and embraced democracy and had a zero tolerance to corruption. South Korea has even jailed one of their former presidents for corrupt activities, which must send a shiver down the spine of the ANC at the thought of such. And we know someone from Nkandla who fits this very same profile. South Africa, on the other hand, sought to rather follow the path of North Korea, holding on to ideology and a bygone era which has no relevance today. While South Africa has been a democracy for less than half the time South Korea has, it has not even achieved 10% of what South Korea has, in short. South Africa has entirely squandered the path to industrialization, mass education, and poverty alleviation. This is a direct result of the ANC being in government for the last 30 years. Chairperson, we must commend the committee for being so engaging with our gracious hosts and the honest desire to learn from them. And the DA hopes that the lessons of the study tour and what we all agree on as our national priorities is translated into policy and action in South Africa. We also want to pay tribute to the committee staff, Andre Herman, Zokonda Madeleine, Ivan Manakaza, and Margaret Sheldon, who were incredibly helpful, as well as the fantastic team at our mission in Seoul. We also must acknowledge the committee chairperson, Honorable Judy Hermans, who ensured that the study tour was a learning platform for the committee and will be of use to Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Shonyana and Shonyana.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, South Africa can learn a lot from the Republic of South Korea industrialization, which over the years have become a dominant in the world we know today. The major industries like Kia and Samsung started as small family businesses, and today they are the biggest drivers of economic development and the tool for jobs creation in South Korea. The Republic of South Korea is a country with a dark past of war and colonization, but has managed to emerge as a new global player in the tech production and a leader of vehicle manufacturing. They didn't blame their past as how the ANC always does in South Africa, blaming apartheid. South Korea founding fathers transformed their fishing villages to a state-of-the-art port, which today is ranked highly in the world. All it took was a strong political leadership, a government that put the people first, and the development of states above all. The South Korea Economic Zones program was planned with such precision. Each economic zone was built in a province strategically, looking at the strength and position of the province within the country. It was interesting to see the heart of the country, which is its financing, being centered within a part of a country where land invasion is impossible in case of war. The land it was built in is protected and surrounded by bridges that could go up in the times of invasion. Our point, Chairperson, is that where leaders have proper vision, the country grows and develops. Not like in South Africa, where we have lost millions of rands through vandalization of the SEZ in Limpopo and Gauteng. The truth is, our industrial parks have been a failure and probably will only operate optimally and adequately when the EFF takes over government next year. Chairperson, South Africa's key concern is to grow its manufacturing base, which has been declining. I wonder how will this happen when we still have load shedding? And as long as there's no stable source of energy, a greater focus on industrialization and localization will always be a distant dream in this country. Industrialization needs energy, and that's what South Korea have mastered. And that is what South Africa needs to learn above all, that we need a stable energy source in order for us to grow our industries. Thank you very much, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Nkosi Cebekulu. I'm not too sure, Honourable Singh, is still going to be you.
Yes, Chairperson, Honourable Cebekulu is still having some difficulties. But let me start off by saying that whether it's Nkosi Cebekulu or I speaking on this report, it doesn't matter, because Nkosi was not included in the trip to Korea. And I think it's a matter of concern that, some of us parties, members are not included in these trips, and we are expected to speak on reports arising from the trips. But having said that, Honourable Chairperson, when one looks at the recommendations that those that attended the tour have made, I think they are reasonable recommendations. However, these recommendations should be par for the course for any minister. It's not something that they should be told to do now, but they should be doing it because they have a mandate to manage these departments, particularly trade and industry, which is such an important department. The one exclusion which I can just advise the committee on from my personal experience is that in this report, there is no time frame for the minister to report back to Parliament. And I think it's always advisable to give a minister probably 60 days to report on the recommendations that have been made by the committee, so that the committee can follow up whether he has done what has been requested by them. Otherwise, we will support the report, albeit that my member was not on the tour. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Singh.
Chair.
I'm not too sure it's a point of order or what, but let's proceed, Honourable Members. I now recognize Honourable F.J. Mudla. Over to you, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Agbare voorsitter, in die evaluasieproses van die verslag moet die huis in ag neem dat die rede waarom Suid-Korea juist gekies is om die studietoer mee te maak, is vanweë die feit dat die ekonomie van die land van 'n baie lae basis ontwikkel het oor tyd, dat die 12de grootste ekonomie in die wêreld en dat die land hoogs geïndustrialiseer is. South Korea is one of the few countries that has successfully transformed itself from a low income base to a high income economy and a global leader in innovation and technology. The Korean state has reinforced its emphasis on human capital development as the key determinant for the rebooting of the country's economy and growth engine and economic competitiveness. Education has proven to be one of the most important types of human capital investment. Human capital is perceived to increase productivity and thus profitability. The result is that the economy of South Korea is highly developed and supported by effective and competitive government policies, good governance, service delivery, and reliable supply of electricity, which is very important, Honourable House Chair. Voorsitter, Suid-Afrika beskik oor ongelooflike potensiaal met meer as 60 miljoen mense. 'n Ongelooflike rykdom van natuurlike en minerale hulpbronne en 'n ontwikkelde ekonomie. Die realiteit is egter dat Suid-Afrika ook sit met 'n regering wat swak ekonomiese beleid het, korrupsie, staatskaping en swak dienslewering en 'n swak onderwysstelsel. Suid-Afrika sal sy huis in orde moet kry en presteer. Die besoek van die portefeulje komitee aan Suid-Korea was inderdaad sinvol en Suid-Afrika kan wel baie leer uit die besoek. Die VF+ bedank die voorsitter en sekretariaat vir die reëlings en ondersteun die komitee verslag. Dankie voorsitter.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize, before I recognize Honourable Trink, I'm advised that Honourable Kwankwa, your hand is up. My apology. I'm not too sure it's still relevant.
Well, it is still relevant, Chair, but I'll wait for the opportunity for the UDM, although I'm not on the speaker's list. My apologies.
No, you will be, because I will call UDM. Nevertheless, let's proceed. Thank you very much. Honourable WM Trink, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable House Chairperson, the ACDP wishes to acknowledge the behind-the-scenes work done by our committee chair, the Honourable Hermans, in ensuring that as many political party members were able to attend as possible, thus ensuring a multi-party delegation present. Outside of austerity measures, this ought to be the benchmark for all portfolio committees. The ACDP notes that our Special Economic Zone program, as part of the Reimagine Industrial Strategy, was purposed to stimulate local and foreign direct investment, but worryingly is falling far short of its intended purpose. And this has been acknowledged in this report with the admission that our manufacturing base is in decline. This stands in stark contrast to the FEZs in South Korea, which serve as a catalyst for industrialization and economic growth. Although South Korea is not a naturally rich, resource-rich country, it focused on exporting value-added goods. In 1961, some of the major exports were silk, tungsten, squid, and fish. But some 30 years later, in 1993, their major export items were electronics, steel, products, automobiles, and ships, despite not being naturally endowed with raw materials, as is the case in South Africa. This is a good example of the implementation and execution of good economic and industrial policies. An economic marvel took place in South Korea, where in the 1960s it was an agrarian society with farmers making up 70% of the population. The export-focused, market-driven industrial policies, the development of human capital, respect for science and technology, and the strong governance were main drivers of the South Korea's economic success in the 1960s. In accepting this report, the ACDP calls on the Minister to implement the recommendations, which include engaging with the relevant ministries for the development of a government-led vocational training strategy to ensure the supply of sector-specific skills that would drive industrialization, engaging institutions of higher learning, both locally and internationally, in conjunction with the relevant ministries to encourage the establishment of satellite campuses and/or programs with specific economic zones to support sector-specific skills development for each special economic zone, promoting public-private partnerships in the ownership and/or management of special economic zones and its enabling infrastructure, such as water, energy, and waste manager. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Now I recognize Honourable Kwankwa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Apart from this, the study tour of the Committee on International Relations to South Korea, I was part and parcel of a study tour in November, December last year, of the Standing Committee on Appropriations to South Korea. And some of the things that we looked at are precisely some of the areas that the committee actually looked at. But more importantly, it was the governance model of South Korea around its finances and how it didn't matter whether you were a prime minister, it didn't matter whether you held a senior position in government. If your hand was caught in the cookie jar, you would be held responsible for it. And there would be sanctions imposed on you in particular as that leader of society. It's something that we should learn from South Korea in particular, that a country which has no mineral resources has been able to transform itself into a developed country because of its investment, in particular, Chairperson, in research and development. It spends a significant chunk of its resources on research and development because it has moved into exporting high value added goods. It's no longer about just investing in minerals and other things like we do, which is very basic. But Chairperson, Honorable Singh is quite correct in saying that multipartism as a value is enshrined in our constitution. And I can never understand why this parliament, democracy by its nature is very expensive. It's in order to ensure its credibility, it means that those who are governing must invest in the project of democracy and ensuring its credibility. It can't be that we should depend on the mood and the whims of the person who's considered to a large extent to be the chairperson of committees to decide whether you can take the full committee to a study tour on a particular issue or whether you must take 5 or 4. And that is done arbitrarily to the disadvantage, much to the disadvantage of other smaller parties who might be actively engaged in the work of those committees. The ACDP, to which Mr. Trim belongs, I have interacted with his colleague, Honorable Sukeras, in basic education and other departments, and other smaller party members who are engaged in the work of committees in Parliament, but who get discriminated against when there are opportunities for study tours for them to broaden their horizons, for them to be able to benchmark the work of committees and be able to make significant and substantive recommendations to the work that we do as Parliament. I want to put it to my colleagues in smaller party caucus that we should not allow this to happen in the next Parliament because it is discrimination against other members of Parliament, and we are all members of Parliament. And first and foremost, we are members of Parliament before we belong to political parties. That's how Parliament should treat us. If we're actively engaged in the work of a specific committee, we should be allowed to participate in all activities, not just a select few.
Thank you, Honorable Kwankwa. Thank you very much. I now recognize Honorable ATM. Honorable Good. Honorable NFP. Honorable AIC. Honorable Cope. Honorable PAC. I now recognize Honorable CN Malimaja. Malimaja, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Chair. Honorable members, Mozambique as a whole. The South African government adopted a multi-pronged approach to achieve its export-driven industrial policy. It took into consideration all factors necessary to enable industrialization, including infrastructure development and business buy-in as well as skill development. We want to make it clear, Comrade Chairperson, that our visits have yielded a lot of lessons, in particular dealing with the SEZ Chairperson. In South Africa, the SEZ are benefiting from the lessons that we went. Those that are saying today the SEZ are not progressing is simply because our SEZ are ring-fenced in a way that there will be no land invasion. Whoever is saying there's no progress is on the opportunity that they want to come and do land invasion. Industrialization is a critical driver of economic development and a tool for a job creation. This requires a shift towards decentralized production and the development of a new global production, value chain, and business model, which require a model of a manufacturing sector. The ANC-led government is pursuing a policy of transformation and inclusive through the reimagined industrial policy with a focus of decentralizing economy through the establishment of the SEZ, the revitalization of the industrial parks, the strengthening of the social compact with business through master plan. As part of our journey of a structural transformation and reindustrialization, We took a study tour to learn how a country that moved from underdeveloped to developing and now developed was able to structure and coordinate their structural and industrial policy. The South African government has learned from the South Korean government, which we believe that through its sufferings, it has managed to ensure that through the reparation of the war, it has managed to industrialize and ensure that it deals with corruption that is there in and out. Fortunately, we learned that the overall and industrial policy that is not people-centered will only serve to be counterproductive. Therefore, social buy-in by all citizens and business is critical for the success of the implementation of industrial policy. We believe the African National Congress-led government is reimagined in a position when that policy is always there in central to address all issues. And we have seen through those years that we have been able to register a number of successes, particularly in the automotive sectors. You go to the Tshwane SEZ, it is producing, it is moving, cars are made here locally. A lot more need to be done, which we don't deny, Chairperson. We need to strengthen backward linkages with supply chain and value added. We are of a concern that if we are not strengthened that to compete with other countries abroad, this will not make us to mark the mark. The tour itself has taught us that as South Africa, we are able to deal with the businesses and the buy-in of the, and ensure that whoever who was there report positively that we have managed, and the ANC-led government is in line with everything that takes the government out of the of apartheid to the new industrialized by industrializing and ensure that the industrialists from the local are able to participate and compete with the other international. We are on the right track, Chairperson. In our attempt to reindustrialize our economy, we have the right policies that cannot be disputed. There's no any political party in South Africa and SADC SA that can meet our economical policies. Ours is to implement, and those who are on the other side is to join and learn from us. Equally so to those that want to criticize the tour, it's not our own making, Chairperson, that you are only 50% because you are one and the other member is one. If we are to divide the tower, you are not going to make it to wait for 2024 and say you'll come back. You won't see that. The ANC will take over, take everything. Our visit to South Korea has demonstrated we support the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable members, that concludes the debate. We shall proceed now, honorable members, to the third order, which is consideration of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Employment and Labor on International Study Tour to Kenya. I now recognize Honorable M. Nonzele. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Jambo. Consideration of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Employment and Labor on study visit to Kenya. The Ministry of Employment and Labor introduced a comprehensive and collaborative policy development strategy on labor migration management and policy development, starting in 2015 and then establishing a roadmap in 2016. Due to growing unemployment in the country and the perception that foreigners distort access to the job market, the program aims to meet the expectations of South Africans by providing access to jobs opportunity. The objective of the National Labour Migration Policy is to ensure that labour migration to and from South Africa is in the best interest of migrant workers and the South African economy and society. South Africa's immigration policy is set out in the Immigration Act number 13 of 2002, which outlines the standards that applicants must meet to immigrate permanently to South Africa. The National Labour Migration Policy aims to provide South Africa with a technically sound policy instrument that will strengthen the country's approach to labour migration in in a coordinated manner across key ministries, most notably the Departments of Employment and Labor and Home Affairs, thus contribute to the radical socio-economic agenda outlined in the National Development Plan 2030. The Portfolio Committee then began the process of determining which other nations' labor migration policies may be used as a model for the process of developing the national labor migration policy. This is in response to rising concern that some South African companies employ illegal foreign nationals in the guise of cheap labor, benefiting the company at the expense of South Africans. This has been a cause of great tension between South Africans and foreign nationals, necessitating of a national labor migration strategy. Kenya was chosen as an appropriate country to benchmark on labor migration challenges because it is an important transit point for irregular migration in the East African area, as well as transit and destination country for asylum seekers, refugees, and economic migrants from the neighboring countries such as Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, Eritrea, Sudan, DRC, and Rwanda. In conclusion, House Chair, the main reason for the visit was to improve the migration management coordination. The department collaborated with International Labour Organization on the establishment of the labor migration policy. The policy will assist in addressing residents' concerns, particularly those with low and medium levels of expertise. It will also identify vital and scarce skills required to strengthen the country's economy. ANC supports the report.
Thank you, Honorable.
Asante, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable M. Beckman. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. It's Michael Bagram from the DA. Study tours of this nature produce very little. Not only is the Kenyan situation vastly different to South Africa, but our laws and labor legal structures are not comparable in any way. Kenya does not reflect our system or any of our industrial relations systems that we have here. Ostensibly, the committee was going to study migrant labor. We in South Africa have demonstrated xenophobic behavior towards migrant labor, and already we have incredibly onerous legislation standing in the way of any skills that we might need. Over and above this, our administration is so broken that even if someone is desperately needed in South Africa, it takes them years to get work permits. Wastage of this nature is something that we can ill afford. The majority of our labor laws cannot even be overseen by the dearth of inspectorate in South Africa. Already we have a large proportion of our workforce who are either not registered at all, and another even larger proportion earning less than the basic minimum wage, and yet we rush off to Kenya. We have reports daily from whistleblowers telling us that workers don't have the basics, such as letters of appointment, wage slips, holiday pay, maternity leave, contracts of employment. I can go on. The entire ambit of our Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which is the baseline of employment in South Africa, seems to have been completely ignored. The department tell us they cannot afford to capacitate the inspectors. They don't have people at all to look at any of the businesses that I complain about. We are completely under-resourced, but we have money to travel to Kenya. Most of the entities under the Department of Employment and Labor are dysfunctional. The departments such as the UIF and the Compensation Fund could not even submit their reports for their Auditor General for auditing. Both these departments have been dysfunctional for almost 20 years. The workers of South Africa are suffering at the hands of an ANC government and the Department of Employment and Labor. The Department of Labor cannot labor. The other departments seem to be floundering, such as Productivity SA, which is producing the second worst productivity in the world. Even our talk shop, NEDLAC, is seldom able to come to any agreements between the warring parties. The only entity that is functioning, the CCMA, is having its budget cut radically from year to year, yet we can go on a jaunt off to Kenya. The CCMA has made desperate pleas for more money on an annual basis. All they get is accolades. What are you able to do with a half-baked promise about possible funding? The funding seems to have gone to a junket of parliamentarians to travel to foreign jurisdictions. Our well-heeled traveling MPs come back with no better knowledge and no new ideas. All we hear is praise for the trip, as they were able to get their subsistence and travel allowance on a daily basis. Our government in South Africa has nothing to show for the squandered rands spent on the trip. Likewise, we have an enormous contingent of fellow travelers with the Minister of Employment and Labour to the ILO. This trip took place a few months back, and all we have from it is a tremendous bill and meaningless paperwork. Unemployment in South Africa today is probably the worst in the world, and we're happy to have lucky politicians who want to rub shoulders with other politicians from far-flung places. I have yet to see any decent results come out of any of these trips. I've been watching these junkets for years, and each time we hear glowing reports in this house, probably because the accommodation and meals were really good. When we read the numerous surveys of South Africa's worry, we note that 70% of South Africans across the board see joblessness as the #1 concern. It might be far better to send a group of politicians to conduct an oversight and get feedback from the unemployed of South Africa. The unemployed are waiting desperately for changes in legislation and change in government. We need to change the structure of our employment environment. The Democratic Alliance will do just that. It will cure the unemployment. Even our sorry president asked for his ministries to come forward with changes to legislation which act as a handbrake to job creation. Despite this call, nothing's been done. The president was supposed to assess the efficacy of each department 5 years ago. Again, nothing's been done. It's quite clear that no one in the ANC is interested in service delivery of any nature. The only service we see is a cock and bull plan to take 5 billion rand from the Unemployment Insurance Fund money from the Public Investment Corporation and invest it in a non-functional company. This plan seems to have come to a sticky end when it appears that certain ANC ministers probably demanded a 500 million rand bribe from the UIF deal. This allegation comes from the CEO of the company that was supposed to receive the ill-gotten gains. Thankfully, most of these monies were frozen, or so we've been told. We've not seen the outcome of the investigation, which is now almost 10 months old. This whole debacle has led to the resignation in haste of the Director General of the department, and all this with us collapsing all around. Our ANC colleagues in the Department of Labour go
Thank you,
skipping
Honourable
off.
Member. Your time has
Thank you.
expired, sir. Thank you. Honourable members, we shall proceed. I recognize Honourable Konto.
Thank you, Chair. It's Honourable. I'm standing for Mkonto.
Nyambo,
House Chair, whilst we
Honourable Mtatwa, switch off your video because you've got the instability in terms of your connectivity.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst we mourn the sad passing of Bonginko Sintuli of Amazulu FC, Chair, the creative and cultural sector is also mourning the sad passing of one of the forever forgotten in life and remembered at death, the legend Mark Ranseli of the Mechanics fame. And the reason for me bringing this to this House attention, it is because...
Honourable Mtatwa, there's a hand up. Honourable Khatebe.
Chairperson, I'm raising on the issue of the background of the member. Thank you.
Okay. No, okay. No, thanks, Honourable Khatebe. Honourable Member, your jacket seems to have your political party logo in your background. If you can just sort it out, and you may proceed.
Let me just keep it blank. Is
Yes,
it fine,
thank you.
Chair?
No, it's still, I can see the red jacket with something yellowish at the corner there. You were at the rally, we know that. If you may, and meanwhile also proceed, or you want to attend to it first?
Sorry, Chair. Can I proceed and I will attend? Let me apologize. I wasn't aware that it is showing like that.
The problem,
can I proceed, Chair?
No. Honourable members, allow me to assist Honourable Mtatwa. Honourable Mtatwa, in terms of our rules, I can't make a special dispensation for you. Just if you don't mind, let me go to Honourable SL Ngobo, then I'll come back to you so that I don't also.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Chair.
now
I'll do that.
thank you. I now recognize Honorable S.L. Ngobo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I was also privileged to join the delegation and attended the Portfolio Committee study tour to Kenya earlier, and learned valuable insights and shared best practices with our continental neighbors. During our short visit, we made several important observations that can significantly inform labor and employment policy and legislation development. Firstly, we noted that Kenya's labor migration policy primarily emphasizes the management of Kenyans employed in other countries rather than foreign nationals employed within Kenya. We recognize the need for a well-balanced approach that considers both aspects of labor migration. This approach ensures the protection of empowerment of Kenyan workers and could serve as a model for South Africa's engagement with international partners. It was commendable to note that Kenya's labor laws and constitutional law draw inspiration from South Africa, highlighting the strong foundations we share regarding our respective legal frameworks. Such permits for collaboration and further alignment of our respective labor legislation, which should foster greater consistency and coherence in our regional efforts. The informal sector in Kenya was found to be the significant contributor to the economy. Important parallels can be drawn from this and should be integrated in our own informal sector to create additional employment opportunities and be a sizable value add to our economy. Kenya has immense challenges in terms of youth unemployment, with estimates reaching an alarming 80%. This must be an alarm bell for us for urgent need to prioritize youth unemployment initiatives and invest in skills development programs that will provide our youth with the tools they need to succeed in ever-changing job market. The IFP highly commend Kenya's principle of prioritizing local employment, with foreign nationals being employed only if suitable qualified Kenyans citizens are unavailable. First and foremost, we must ensure employment opportunities for our citizens in the employment sector where appropriate. We learned valuable lessons learned from Kenya and should integrate these insights into our deliberations on labor and employment policy. Let us strengthen our labor market and advance national socio-economic policy for the benefit of all South Africans. The IFP supports the report. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable ACTP. Honorable UDM, Honorable ATM, Honorable Good, Honorable NFP, Honorable AIC. Then let me then quickly take Honorable Mtetwa. Now I think you are sorted. I can see in the screen. Over to you, sir. Honorable Mtetwa, unmute yourself. No, it's somebody else. It's not you. Okay. No, that's fine. We shall proceed. Honorable Cope. Oh, yes. Okay. I'll call you again, Honorable Mtetwa. Honorable PAC. Then I recognize Honorable Mtetwa. You may come in now. I saw you had a good background. I'm sure you've got a stable connectivity now. Okay, I guess you are good. I now recognize Honorable A.S. Zuma. Over to you, ma'am.
Chair.
Is your hand up?
No, Chair, is Honorable Mkonto. Can I come in for the EFF?
Oh, you are requesting no. That Honorable A.S. Zuma, can you just stand and allow Honorable Kosi Mkonto to come in? Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, visiting another African country that has a lot of similarities with ours was one of the best decisions made by the Portfolio Committee of Employment and Labor. Workers in the world are subjected to many types and forms of abuse and exploitation. What is important is to learn how other countries mitigate this scourge in terms of labor tribunals and enforcement of labor laws. Most of Kenya labor laws are similar to those of us in South Africa. Their employment rate is higher than ours. This is due to the fact that their agricultural sector, which employs the highest percentage, is strictly regulated. It employs a prescribed number of Kenyan citizens, unlike in South Africa, where the same sector is dominated by foreign nationals, workers, while with the sole aim of exploiting and enslaving them. They hire and terminate employment without formal contracts in South Africa. In order to restore our township economy, we can take lessons on how Kenyan small businesses are registered and developed. Self-employment is regarded as formal. Their government has developed a support system, including registration, training, and supply of basic tools where necessary. That encourages citizens towards self-employment. The minimum wage, which the white monopoly capitalists regard as the source of unemployment in South Africa, is determined
Honorable Mkonto, what happened? I think you're also disturbed, but I can't wait any further. I've been very
Can I take over and continue, Chair?
Where do you take over? Because she was about to conclude.
Where she ended. Where she ended.
Okay. Okay.
Their employment rate is higher than ours. This is due to the fact that the agricultural sector, which employs the highest percentage, is strictly regulated. It employs a prescribed number of Kenyan citizens, unlike in South Africa, where the same sector is dominated by foreign national workers with the sole aim of exploiting and enslaving them. They hire and terminate employment without formal contracts. In order to restore our township economy, we can take a lesson on how Kenyan small businesses are registered and developed. Self-employment is regarded as formal. Their government has developed a support system, including registration, training, and supply of basic tools where necessary. That encourages citizens towards self-employment. The minimum wage, which the white monopoly capitalists regard as the cause of unemployment in South Africa, is determined by the Minister of Labor, and it applies across the board. Further to that, Chair, I wanted to say that the members who have passed away from our sector, bring this issue to our attention, because this is one sector that remains outside the labor system and labor regulations. The EFF supports the report. Thanks.
Thank you, honorable members of the EFF. Honorable A.S. Zuma, over to you, Sholos. Honorable Zuma.
Thank you, Chairperson. Will you please allow me to switch off my video?
It's already off and permission granted.
Okay, thank you. Chairperson, those people that are busy, trying to take down the government of the ANC, apartheid apologists who rely on exploiting foreigners as cheap labor will always see interventions by ANC-led government as a problem. The compensation fund and UIF had for years since sitting with negative audit outcomes without any complaints or noise by DA. You can guess why. The ANC-led government has made all entities to account, hence interventions on a compensation fund and UIF. The whole study tour a junket because it threatens their exploitative workplace practice. ANC-led government will spare no effort in uprooting all apartheid-era labor practices and employment. Abayi futhi kuma oversight bayahlala baphikisa yonke into, even to the study groups. The African National Congress has commended the National Labour Migration Policy as well as the proposed Employment Services Amendment Bill. The policy tries to limit the extent to which employers can hire foreign nationals in the business while respecting migrants' rights. The ANC support policy and it covers critical issues such as implementation of quotas of the total number of documentation and foreign nationals with work permits who can work in the significant economic sectors such as agriculture, hospitality, and tourism and construction. And so it also enforces a list of industries where foreign nationals are not permitted to obtain business visas, restrict foreign nationals from establishing SMMEs and trade in some areas of the economy, secures porous borders, increases inspection, and to implement current labor and immigration legislation. One of the most important aspects of this tour was to assess Kenyan migration policy in order to determine the programs, underlying ideas, how to integrate immigration into labor market and communities. It was also to analyze the current challenges and opportunities presented by immigration in which a country can benefit from more, especially in areas of scarce skills. Furthermore, the study tour sought to analyze how Kenyan government solves difficulties in public international law and international immigration protection. The Portfolio Committee got a thorough understanding of Kenyan migration policy, including how to control the issue of immigration to provide assistance to Kenyan residents working in other countries. The Portfolio Committee also scrutinized how Kenya handles the impact of immigration on the labor market. In conclusion, Chairperson, both South Africa and Kenya are popular destinations for a variety of migrants, but they face a number of migration-related issues. South Africa has received a high number of migrants over the years, similar to Kenya. However, in South Africa, it has been noted that there is an increase in the prevalence or irregular migration, including women and unaccompanied minors, and in the country, is grappling and insufficient migration management policy and border management processes. As a result, our visit empowered the committee by widening and understanding on how to deal with these difficulties. Oversight in parliament. The ANC supports the report.
Let's go.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable members, that concludes the third debate. We shall proceed to the last order of the day, which is a consideration of the report of the Joint Standing Committee on Defense and Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans on joint study tour to Germany from the 25th of June to 2023 to the 1st of July 2023. I now recognize the honorable member VC Club.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, it gives me pleasure to introduce this report. The Joint Standing Committee on Defense conducted the study tour to Germany from 25 June to 1 July 2023 as part of benchmarking exercise. The focus of the study was on the following matters. One, to meet with the parliamentary oversight structures to gain insight into how they ensure a more effective military in Germany. Two, how Parliament ensures fiscal balance in military expenditure, particularly how it ensures a balance between expenditure on compensation of employees, capital expenditure, and military operations. Three, an overview of German military training
and specifically German military academic institutions. 4, how does Germany ensure the sustainability of its defense industry amid reduced expenditure? How does Germany military contribute to cyber security and cyber defense in the country? 6, how does the German military deal with matters of succession planning and rejuvenation of both the regular and reserve force? Of particular interest is our discussion with the German Bundeswehr, that is the Federal Defense Force of Germany, and selected defense industry players. The Bundeswehr briefed us on cyber defense, personnel management, career management, military university management, management of the reserve force, and an overview of the German defense budget. The Bundeswehr referred to studies that show that soldiers from the age of 45 start to have a health deficit, and that for troops, you need younger personnel. Based on its observation on the study tour, the committee presents this report that contains 11 recommendations. The committee wishes to express its gratitude to the South African Embassy in Berlin, and specifically the South African Military Attaché, Colonel Lisija Ramapulane, and her assistant, Ms. C. Samlensky, for coordinating our program and their excellent support during the visit. Finally, the committee expresses its gratitude to parliamentary presiding officers and the House chairs of both houses, Honorable Frolik and Honorable Nyambi, for trusting us with this visit. Personally, I wish to thank Dr. Willem van Rensbeck and Nandi Pamakekwana, the content advisor, and committee secretary, respectively, for their selfish and support. I thank you. I present this report. Thanks, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable SJF Mare.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for this opportunity. I hope you can see me.
Honorable Member, I suggest that you switch off your video because it's like you are cracking.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. In my 17 years in Parliament, this was the best organized and structured study tour with value for money. Our parliamentary...
Honorable Mare, 1 second, sir. Are you close to the radio or TV? Because you are still cracking. No, you may proceed to tolerate the funny noise.
Okay, thank you very much. Our parliamentary staff, as well as our defense attaché in Germany, must get credit for our program and the arrangements. Our joint committees have identified the need for an opportunity to study international best practices based on 2 areas of interest. First, matters related to our defense force structure and force design, which were informed by our defense spending of only 0.73% of GDP versus a global benchmark of 2%, cost of employees of 70% compared to an ideal of 40 to 50% of the defense budget, our aging defense force with less than 4% younger than 25 years. We were in search for international best practices of efficient force structures and force designs with comparisons regarding effective human resource management to ensure force rejuvenation, exit mechanisms for all the soldiers, and efficient succession planning. The second matter was related to our defense industry and our military state of preparedness. We are involved in domestic and international operations where its extent and budgetary constraints, deteriorating prime mission equipment, and placed significant strain on our defense forces' sustained capabilities. Long-term stability and sustainability is required to ensure we can support both internal and external operations in compliance with our constitutional mandate. South Africa and our defense industry once was respected with a global competitive edge and to be at the forefront of military innovations and development, mainly driven by Arms Corps and Denel, which we have lost. If we want to resuscitate our defense capabilities, we need a thriving local defense industry as our partners. The German defense industry can aid in enhancing our defense industry and maximize its economic growth contributions and employment generations possibilities. Our program included engagement with the German Parliament, Defense Committee for lessons we can use to improve our own oversight and legislative effectiveness, our engagement with the German Bundeswehr on cyber defense, personnel management, military university and tertiary study philosophy, military career management, reserve force management, and an overview of their military budget principles and processes. Engagements with the naval dockyards and stakeholders were included, including the manufacturers of our frigates and submarines, given our current dire situation of those vessels. We engaged with Hensoldt and Rheinmetall, the German parent companies of Denel Partners, Hensoldt South Africa and RDM. They have reaffirmed their commitment to our industry and resuscitation of our defense force capabilities. Some takeaways we can gain from these study tour. Our defense force and defense industry is based on NATO standards, and can we gain from Germany, the biggest economy within the European Union, with a highly regulated defense industry similar to ours. Our defense industry and economy can benefit from the defense exports to Germany and the EU. Government has neglected over the last 30 years our defense industry, the defense force and its defense capabilities, to now only being a shadow of what we once were. We must reposition the strategic Denel divisions like aeronautics, PMP, landward and dynamics, similar to Hensoldt South Africa and RDM, by allowing private sector equity partners. We need them for the successful reprioritization and a well-resourced defense force to meet the current and future threats, which include investments and development in cybersecurity requirements, as well as fifth-generation technologies as force multipliers to be used by the defense force, for instance, drones, UAVs, radar, satellite, etc. Reconsideration of the realistic and sustainable defense force we need and can afford, given the actual threats, the poor state of our economy, and foreign policy in the best interest of South Africa and no political party specifically. We must increase our defense budget to 1% of GDP, subject to a redesigning, repositioning, and resource reprioritization process to sustainably meet the actual and current and future threats. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable T. Mafanya. Honourable Mafanya.
Greetings, the Chairperson Mzwanele Manyi here, standing in for Honourable Mafanya. Are you okay, Chair?
You may proceed, Honourable Manyi.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Firstly, House Chair, we would like to congratulate our South African Defence Force Attaché, Colonel Lesejane Ramapulane, for her professional approach and dedication in orientating members of the committee. It's always welcome. It's always a welcome development when we see women breaking stereotypes and excelling in areas that were historically performed only by men. Chairperson, this visit for us as economic freedom fighters, we're actually puzzled as to why it took so long for this visit to happen. That minister, if anything, in fact, this visit has actually exposed how the ANC government has eroded, denuded, and destroyed our defense force. The best practice that we've seen there was just unparalleled. Chairperson, Germany has an active force of about 183,000, with the stated goals of increasing their force to 300,000 members. All of this to supervise a population of about 83 million, meaning as things stand, for every one soldier, they're looking at about 450 people. But this will improve as they increase to 300,000 soldiers. Whilst on our side, we have a pittance of 79,000 active force members, with a stated goal of reducing our force to 73,000 members against a population of 60 million people. Meaning, as things stand in South Africa, for every one soldier, they have to deal with about 760 people. And there's a plan to make things worse by reducing from 79,000 to 73,000, meaning the ratio will deteriorate from 1:760 to 1:821. So basically, the Defence Force of South Africa is planning for mediocrity, is planning to fail, is planning to expose the country to all kinds of security incursions. Germany has created a cell phone app for all its members and can track their well-being. It's not clear whether in the South African Defence Force, those kinds of advancements is anything even on the table. Cybersecurity is considered an integral part of the defense multiplier for present and future cyber conflicts. IT architecture development for protection and project management capabilities are an integral part of defense strategy. Germany owns Armed Forces University that is teaching facilities, and also they also own research institutions. German Defense Force budget is being prioritized. These are all the things that have always been at our disposal to learn from over the past 30 years. But instead, we've just seen people that are just getting fat in the army and doing absolutely nothing. It's not clear why South African Defence Force is so third world when we have always from day one been exposed to best practice. The economic freedom fighters have taken all these lessons, and as we take power next year, we'll implement the German lessons. But we thank Parliament for arranging this visit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Singh.
Honourable Chairperson, Nkosi Kebekulu is online.
Oh, now he's fine. Okay, no, that's fine. That's it.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. There is no great nation in the world that can stand firmly without a strong and effective defense. It is futile to attempt to build a nation without building an equally strong military that can withstand and combat any threat to its authority and stability. Therefore, it is crucial that we do not attempt to operate as an island, but work closely with other nations from whom we can learn and stand in comparison. These exercises expose us to international practices when it comes to military training, resources, spending, particularly because currently, the department currently exceeds expenditure ceilings set by the Treasury. Constant budget cuts weakens the strength and quality of the SNDF, as the defense budget has been gradually reduced to less than 1% of the country's GDP, whilst employee compensation expenditure has increased to 69% of the defense overall expenditure. These figures are deeply concerning and in contrast to international standards and practices, as they hinder the military's economic contribution and potential to create employment. On top of this, less than 44% of the SNDF force is younger than 25 years, which stands as a threat to the rejuvenation and succession of the force structures and its practices. The SNDF is involved in numerous domestic and international operations, but efforts are strained by budgetary constraints, equipment deficiency, and the limitation of shortage defense force. Instability and increased crime have led to calls for the deployment of the SNDF in the country, and this cannot be effected without adequate assessment and similar deployment. The restoration of the dignity, efficiency, and effectiveness of the defense force can only come about once certain measures have been implemented. These include stability in the SNDF's personnel expenditure, which can be achieved through a new human resource management strategy, or the adjustment of the current strategy to ensure long-term stability. As the world basks in the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution, we are yet to finalize the cyber security bill, which will ensure that we are better placed to respond to cyber threats. In conclusion, whilst it would be unwise from the defense and security perspective for any nation to be directly trained by another. Nothing prohibits us from maintaining a mutual beneficial cooperation that will encourage the sharing of knowledge and wisdom. The IFP supports the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable ACTP, UTM, ATM, Good, NFP, AIC, COPE, PAC. I now recognize Honorable T.N. Mutle. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Can I switch the video off for connectivity? It's low. My connectivity seems to be very low.
Permission granted, Honorable Member.
Thank you. Yeah. Honorable House Chair and honorable members, on behalf of the African National Congress, we hereby declare our findings and recommendation of the joint study tour to Germany undertaken by the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. We engaged as elaborated with various stakeholders in Germany, including government official, industry experts, and military personnel to gain insight into their approaches to force structure, force design, and the management of their defense industries. Through this study tour, we aimed to gather valuable information that will contribute to the enhancement of the South African National Defence Force and address some of the challenges faced by our defense sector. Our gratitude goes to the defense attaché.
0.4 kilometers, turn right. For 15 kilometers, continue straight on.
Before he turns right,
Chair.
can you just remove that member or whoever is his mic or her mic is on, please? You may proceed, Honorable Member.
All right. Thank you, House Chair. I was just indicating our gratitude, which goes to the defense attaché to Germany, Colonel Leseja Ramabulane, and the entire team from the embassy in Berlin for a job well done. As a representative of the African National Congress, I declare on behalf of the ANC our position on the joint study tour report. The ANC fully supports the report and the recommendation contained therein. We believe that the insight gained from the study tour in Germany are invaluable and have the potential to significantly enhance the South African National Defence Force and address some of the challenges that our defence force is facing. As our support for this report is rooted in our commitment to ensuring the stability and effectiveness of the South African National Defence Force. Unlike the EFF, we were not there in Germany for grandstanding or for a holiday. As you might have heard from their declaration that they are rubbishing everything that we have done and that we have learned. I'm not sure whether it's because...
Order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
There's an order that has been raised, Honorable Mutle. May you just hold on?
I'm quite for giving them an opportunity to raise a frivolous order.
Please save Mutle's time.
Honorable Mutle, there's a point of order. Can we listen to the point of order?
The point of order, Chair, is that the EFF did not rubbish the trip. The EFF simply said the trip exposed.
Honorable Mani, it's a point of debate. Honorable Mutle, you can proceed.
But you must not represent the position of the EFF, Chair.
No, you can't do that, Honorable Member. Honorable
But he's misleading the House. He's misleading the House.
But now you are interacting with me directly, and that's not a point of order. Honorable Mutle, may you proceed?
Yes, as I was saying, the EFF took an opportunity to go to a holiday in Berlin, and they are misrepresenting the facts that
Point of order,
we
Chair.
have experienced there.
Point of order,
The
Chair.
report highlights the need for a
Point of order,
comprehensive
Chair.
human resource management strategy that focuses
Honorable
on
Mutle.
further rejuvenation.
Honorable Mutle, just hold on. I'll suggest that because I can also see the platform, if you can raise your hand, but I'll take you, honorable member, with the point of order. Let's listen to the point of order.
They were on holiday in Berlin.
No, Honorable Kaba, and no, Honorable Mutle,
That type of nonsense we will not allow, Chair.
Is that a
We
point
will
of
not
order
allow
now?
ANC members to talk nonsense about the EFF.
No.
Please,
Honorable
Chair, we
member,
call on you to call them to
Honorable
order even
member,
before they finish.
Honorable Manyi, I indicated to you, you didn't make any reference to the rule, but also the way you put your point of order is a point of debate, okay? Let's proceed, honorable members. Honorable Mutle, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As I was indicating, the report highlights the need for a comprehensive human resource management strategy that focuses on force rejuvenation and long-term stability in the South African National Defence Force personnel contingent. We believe that this is a critical step towards addressing the issue of irregular expenditure in the Department of Defence and ensuring fiscal stability. Furthermore, we acknowledge the importance of the cybersecurity in today's digital age and support the recommendation to prioritize the development and finalization of the cyber security bill. However, we would like to highlight some areas of concern that should be addressed in the report and recommendation. We believe that the report should place greater emphasis on the need for collaboration and consultation between the DoD, National Treasury, and other relevant stakeholders in the development and implementation of the human resource management strategy. And in addition, we recommend that the report should provide more detailed information on the potential benefit and challenges of the proposed training opportunity at German Military University and exchange program with the German military academy in South Africa. In conclusion, Chair, the ANC reiterate its support for the report and the recommendation contained therein. We believe that the insight gained from this study tour to Germany are valuable and can contribute to enhancement of the South African National Defence Force, and most importantly, in attempt to addressing the challenges faced by our National Defence Force. We then call for National Treasury to avail more funding for the National Defence Force in attempt to resolve some of the challenges that they are faced, that we have learned as we went to the study tour, as opposed to what the EFF did and went to a holiday. That's why Honorable Mafanya is running away from
Only
coming
the
to
EFF
report
will
on behalf
implement
of
those
the
recommendations.
EFF and send the puppet
The
to call
EFF will
Manye
implement
to come and
Can
disrupt
you
us.
take
here.
out?
They are
Thank you
still
very
on
much.
holiday in Berlin.
No. Honorable members, you are not going to do that and assist each other. ICT, take out Honorable Mani, please. Okay, proceed and conclude, Honorable Mutle.
Yes, I have concluded, Chair. That is why
Okay.
I was in conclusion. I was saying that's why the member who was present on the study tour ran away from coming to present their declaration here and sent Honorable Manya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, we should allow the presiding chair to do, and I don't think one will appreciate a disorganized assistance. There's an icon to raise your hand, but it can't be a rally in a sitting. With that, honorable members, that concludes the debate and the business of the virtual mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary session now will rise.
Remove him from the platform.
Long live the chair.